Hello everybody, my name is Carol Brown. I am an urban fantasy author and I have a little tiny small dilemma. I have been told by Mr. Brown that I am not allowed to buy more tarot cards unless I start making use of them, and his version of that was for me to actually start doing reviews for the decks that I have bought, and I'm okay with that so long as I can get more tarot cards. In these reviews, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the deck, I'm going to go over the cards themselves, and I'm also going to talk about the book that they come with. That way, if there is a deck that you're curious about, you can find out a little bit more about it. I will be doing these reviews about once a month or so. It kind of depends. I do have a lot of decks to go through because I do have a deck buying problem. It's very true. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with the first deck that I use very frequently, which is the Revelations Tarot by Wong. I actually would really recommend this deck to anybody who is a beginner looking to try tarot because the cards are really interesting in the sense that you have the upright meaning and then the inverse meaning on the cards. So I know a lot of people usually struggle with that, but with the way that these cards are kind of set up, it actually it really helps you understand what it is that you're looking at, and the imagery in there is very it's very easy to look at something and then have the meaning kind of pop up in your head, so I really do appreciate that. So the cards are pretty flexible, so if you are the typical shuffler and you like to do that, this is a really good deck for that. The colors on here are very vivid. Oops, sunlight. The colors on here are really vivid, and it's really easy to, like I said, to see the verse and the inverse meaning on these cards. I really do like this deck just for that. And then, of course, if you're not sure, you can always go look it up in the book as well. And the one thing that's really nice about these cards is that they actually do have a gloss finish, so if you are the kind of person that worries about scuffing up your cards, the ones with the gloss finish are less likely to do that. And the cards aren't very thick either, so they're not going to take up a lot of space. Now, they are bigger than your typical playing deck version, so they are going to take up some space, so you'll either need to put a bag in it or a box or however you like to store these, because while this does come in a giant box which also has the book, it doesn't come with its own container. So if you are the kind of person that likes to have a container for your cards, you will have to have one for this one. One of the things that I really do like about this deck though is that it is something that I can take out in public. Usually when I go and I do readings for people out in coffee shops or whatever, I try to take a deck that doesn't have a lot of graphic images on it, because not all of your patrons are going to be receptive to that. So this is a really good deck that you can bring out in public and not have to worry about shocking your client if that's something that you're worried about. One of the other things, because I'm just going through the cards and saying what kind of pokes out of my head, is that it does use the traditional color meaning for tarot in here. So for example, yellow has to do with energy and creativity, red has to do with passion stuff, green has to do with stability, and blue has to do with emotions and all that other stuff. So you do see a lot of that in here, and the one nice thing is when the colors are blended together. So for example, when you get the purple cards, you know that you're getting a mix of the red and the blue. So again, I'm really liking a lot of what I see in here, and I do use this deck actually pretty frequently. Man, I really like this deck. I just falling in love with it all over again. So the book is actually pretty, it's not small, it's not super meaty either, but one of the things I do like about it is that each card starts on a new page, and he keeps all the quartz together, so that's really nice. Sometimes I get a tarot book and they're always putting all the numbers together and then they put all the royalty together, and that works for some people, but I am a person that really likes it when all the quartz are together because it's a lot easier for me to index and find things that way. So what he does in this book when he writes it is he has a little image of the card like so. He's got the title of it, there's a quote for it that's under there, and then the one thing that Zach does in this book is he describes cards as events, people, and situations. So I actually really like that a lot. So if you're looking at a card and you're not quite sure how it's relating to a reading, there's those 3 different situations that you can look at and determine if you're still learning. So I think that's really good. Again, for people who are new to tarot and they're looking to kind of understand the cards a lot more, it's a great primer in my honest opinion. And then on top of that, he also in this book talks about the images and the symbolism that happens in the cards, and I really again, I like that too. Now, one thing I will say is he is deviating from the traditional set a little bit. So for example, on the death card, he's got Kali from the Hindu religion on there, which has to still do with death and rebirth and things like that, but for people who might not be totally aware with that, they might be a little intimidated by that card, but it's the death card. Everybody's always intimidated by that card. But I do But again, I'm going back to like the inverse and the reverse meaning, where you can tell that it's about transformation and rebirth and all that other stuff. But again, that's all laid out in here. So if that's something that you are trying to focus on, he's got that in spades in here, and I really appreciate that. In the back of the book, he does have a couple spreads in here too. He's got your 3-card draw, you know, past, present, future stuff, and then he's also got a 7-day spread, and then I think I'm missing something. He's got a 4-element spread. And I'm not really going to dive too much into this, because if this is something that you want to do, I'd rather you read it from the book than have me explain it to you. He's got a horoscope spread, which kind of looks like a little clock signifier. It's very nice. And that's pretty much it. One thing I will say that I'm going to give Zach some credit for is that he doesn't do a lot of like the mystical divination speech thing. You know, he's not trying to motivate you through tarot. This is literally just trying to inform you about the card meetings and stuff like that. You know, he's not trying to tell you to like channel your inner whatever in order to read the cards, which I actually really appreciate, because I can only read so much of that. So that's the Revelations deck pretty much in a nutshell. Again, if I had to give this like a rating out of like 10, I would actually give it 10, and I would still recommend it for people who are new to tarot and who are looking to explore and practice with it, just because it's a very easy to understand deck, and again, the upright and the inverse meanings are on the cards, which is super beneficial when you're trying to learn all this stuff in the beginning. The images are really clear, they're very vibrant, and the book is super easy to understand. Like, I've never looked at any of these pages and thought like, what the fuck does that mean? So I'm gonna leave a link to the deck down below. It's not an affiliate link, I ain't getting sponsored. This is my honest opinion about this deck. So if you are curious and you would like to get one, go ahead and check it out. It's on Amazon, super easy to get a hold of, and if you happen to get the deck or you happen to use the deck, feel free to leave a comment down below about your own experience with it, how you like it, any of that jazz, so that way if somebody else would like a different point of view other than mine, they can jump down to the comments down below and check that out. So anyway, my name is Kara Brown. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.